Okay, welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take the sources you share with us, really roll up our sleeves and unpack the most important bits of knowledge. We're here to help you get informed fast.
Exactly. Think of it as your shortcut to understanding the core ideas in the material you sent over, presented in a way that, well, hopefully sticks.
And today we are jumping into a topic that is, it's just everywhere, isn't it? Literally invisible waves of energy all around us, electromagnetic fields, EMFs, and the big question about their potential impact on our health.
Yeah, and our source for this deep dive is Lifelines by Supremedic, and it features insights presented by Dr. Ram Vishnoy.
It's a really timely subject. I mean, we're just surrounded by devices emitting EMFs now.
Absolutely drenched in them. The phone in your hand, the Wi-Fi in your home, your laptop. Exposure is definitely increasing, no doubt about it.
And that naturally brings up questions, right? Concerns about whether this constant increasing exposure is something we should be worried about.
For sure. You hear such different takes. Some people see a major risk. Others think it's no big deal at all.
Exactly. So our mission here is to really unpack that controversy, explore what the science in this source actually says, and then maybe look at some practical things you can do if managing exposure is on your mind.
Sounds good. So let's start right where the source does. What exactly are EMFs?
Okay, so this source defines them as these invisible areas of energy. They surround electronic devices, any system really where electricity is flowing. It's a form of radiation, basically.
And the examples given in the source just show how common they are. You've got power lines, electrical wiring in the walls.
Right, the hidden stuff too.
Obviously your cell phone, laptop, even the microwave. Turn something electrical on and boom, you've got these fields.
Now, the source material makes a really critical distinction here, one that kind of shapes the whole conversation.
Oh, absolutely crucial. It breaks EMFs down into two main types. First, you've got ionizing radiation.
That's the high-energy stuff.
Yeah, think X-rays, nuclear radiation. This type can potentially damage DNA in cells. It's linked to serious things like cancer.
But importantly, the source is clear that this type, ionizing radiation, isn't what we're focusing on today.
Correct. Our focus, and the focus of the source's main discussion, is the other type, non-ionizing radiation.
Okay, and that's the low-energy kind.
Exactly. The kind emitted by all those everyday things we just listed, smartphones, Wi-Fi routers, Bluetooth stuff.
And the key point the source makes about this non-ionizing type
is that it's generally seen as not harmful at the low levels we typically encounter.
Okay, which brings us right to the core of the debate the source is looking at. If they're considered low energy, generally not harmful, why all the discussion? Why the concern?
That is the big question, isn't it? Do these everyday EMFs actually pose a real threat to our health?
And the source material lays out the main concerns people raise. There's that worry about cancer, specifically the idea that, long-term heavy cell phone use,
holding it right up to your head for years,
could maybe increase the risk of brain tumors or other cancers. That's a big one you hear.
Then there's the potential link to sleep issues. The source mentions some studies suggesting EMS might interfere with melatonin production.
Which is key for sleep cycles, of course.
Yeah, and you also hear about people reporting more immediate symptoms when they feel they're exposed, things like headaches, maybe dizziness, fatigue. The source calls this electromagnetic hypersensitivity, or EHS.
EHS. Right, you mentioned that term from the source, and it sounds like there's quite a bit of debate around that specifically.
There really is, yeah. We should circle back to that. But sticking with the broader EMF health debate for a moment, the source really stresses that the scientific picture here is, well, it's pretty mixed.
Mixed how?
Yeah.
Some studies say yes, some say no.
Pretty much. While some research does show correlations or potential links, the source points out that many, many other studies find no such connection. It's not like a clear, consistent signal in the research.
Okay. And the source brings in what the major health organizations say about this.
It does. It notes that groups like the World Health Organization, the WHO, and the National Institutes of Health, the NIH, they've looked at the evidence.
And
their stance, based on the current science, is that there's no conclusive proof that the typical daily exposure levels to these non-ionizing EMFs cause harm.
That seems pretty definitive, as presented in the source anyway.
It's a strong statement, yeah.
Yeah.
Though the source does add that important caveat, research is ongoing, and we definitely need more long-term studies.
Which makes total sense. We haven't exactly been living like this for centuries, have we?
Not even close, just decades, really, at this intensity.
So let's dig a bit deeper into the science section of the source, then. What specific research examples does it pull out to kind of illustrate this complicated picture.
Okay, so a key one the source mentions is the 2011 classification by the International Agency for Research on Cancer, the IRRC. They looked at radio frequency EMFs, the kind from mobile phones, and classified them as a possible carcinogen. Group 2B?
Possible carcinogen. That phrase definitely catches your ear. But the source explains what that actually means.
Right.
It's not saying it does cause cancer.
Exactly. It means there's some evidence pointing towards a possible link, but it's not strong enough to say definitively that these fields cause cancer. It's a category where, a causal link is suspected, but it's not firmly established. It's less certain than probable or known carcinogens.
So sort of we need to keep watching this category based on how the source explains it.
That's a good way to put it. The source also talks about a really big study called Interphone.
Okay, Interphone. What did that one find?
Huge study. 13 countries involved, looking specifically at mobile phone use and brain cancer risk. The source says the main finding was no consistent evidence linking phone use to increased brain cancer risk overall.
But I feel like there's a but coming. Wasn't there some nuance in there, according to the source?
There was, yeah. The source points out that within that huge Interphone project, some of the individual studies did suggest a slight possible risk, but specifically for the very heaviest users, the ones using their phones the most over many years.
So even within one massive study, it wasn't totally black and white.
Exactly. It shows how tricky this research field is. The source also mentions a JAMA study from 2011.
JAMA, what did that look at?
That one looked at whether cell phone radiation actually had a biological effect on the brain, specifically brain glucose metabolism, how the brain uses sugar for energy.
And did it?
It found that the radiation might affect glucose use in the part of the brain closest to the phone antenna.
Okay, so it showed an effect.
Yeah.
But does the source say that means it's harmful?
No, and this is the really crucial qualifier the source provides. Finding that change in glucose metabolism didn't necessarily translate into a known health risk. It showed a biological response, yes, but not necessarily a harmful outcome from that response.
Interesting. That's a subtle but important distinction. So, looking at these examples, the source uses IRRC, Interphone, that JAMA study. What's the main takeaway the source wants us to get from its science section?
I think the core message the source is trying to convey is really about the lack of consistency and the lack of definitive conclusions across the board in the research right now. It really underlines why big organizations like the WHO and NIH hold their current position, not finding conclusive proof of harm, and why everyone agrees more research, especially long-term, is still needed. It's complex, and science isn't fully settled yet.
Yeah, that clarity about the inconclusive nature itself seems like a key finding from the source. Okay, shifting gears slightly, the source also talks specifically about that EHS thing we mentioned, electromagnetic hypersensitivity.
Right. The experience reported by some people, symptoms like headaches, fatigue, trouble concentrating, that they believe are triggered when they're around EMF sources.
And the source notes there's significant debate about this in the medical world, whether it's like a direct physical reaction to EMFs or something else.
Exactly. The source points that question a direct causal link.
Yeah.
It mentions studies, for instance, where people reporting EHS symptoms had difficulty actually telling whether an EMF source was on or off in blinded tests.
Oh, interesting. And maybe psychological factors play a role, like stress or just expecting to feel bad. The source mentions that possibility.
It does. It suggests that factors like stress or the nocebo effect, expecting negative symptoms, might be involved for some individuals. And this complexity is why, as the source points out, EHS is not currently recognized as a distinct medical diagnosis by major groups like the WHO.
Okay. But the source also makes sure to acknowledge that regardless of the official stance, there are people who genuinely experience these symptoms and strongly feel they're linked to EMFs.
Absolutely. It acknowledges the reality of the symptoms for those individuals. And for anyone in that situation, the source gives very clear advice.
Which is,
if you're having symptoms you think might be related to EMFs, the really important first step is to talk to a healthcare professional. Get checked out properly.
to rule out other things.
Precisely. Rule out other potential underlying medical causes for those symptoms, because there could be many things going on that have nothing to do with EMFs.
That just seems like very sensible advice, whatever the cause turns out to be. And it kind of leads us into the final section the source covers, practical steps. Things people can do to manage their EMF exposure if they choose to.
Yeah, acknowledging that even if the science is inconclusive, some people will understandably want to minimize their exposure anyway. The source offers some pretty simple, actionable ideas.
Like using wired connections, that's one.
Right. If you can, plug your computer into the internet with an Ethernet cable instead of using Wi-Fi. Use wired headphones instead of Bluetooth. That cuts down on the wireless radiation right next to your body.
Makes sense. And limiting cell phone use, the source gives specific tips there.
Yeah, like using the speakerphone function or a wired headset. Keep the phone away from your head while talking.
Just creates distance.
Exactly. And also just being mindful of the total time you spend with the phone held right up to your ear. Reducing that overall time can lower your cumulative exposure.
Okay. What about creating EMF-free zones? The source mentioned that.
Yeah, like maybe designating the bedroom as a low-tech zone. The source suggests trying to keep devices away from your bedside table, maybe turning things off, or even unplugging them at night if you're concerned.
Simple enough. Now, what about all those products you see advertised, like EMF shields or special phone cases? Does the source mention those?
It does, and it notes that their actual scientific effectiveness, whether they really block EMFs significantly, is often debated. There isn't clear consensus that they work as advertised.
But
The source adds, for some people, using these things might provide a sense of peace of mind. And that feeling of control or reassurance can be valuable for well-being in itself.
Okay, so maybe a psychological benefit, even if the physical shielding is questionable, according to the source.
Potentially, yeah. And the final, maybe simplest tip mentioned, just distance.
Distance, as in just physically move away.
Yep. EMF intensity drops off really fast as you move away from the source. So the source suggests simple things like not always carrying your phone right in your pocket, or maybe not keeping a laptop directly on your lap for hours on end.
Even a few inches makes a difference.
It can, yeah. Even a small amount of distance can significantly reduce the intensity of the field you're exposed to.
That's actually a really easy one to implement.
Yeah.
Okay, so bringing this deep dive toward a close, looking back at everything in the source material from Lifelines by Supremedic and Dr. Vishnoy's insights, what's the single biggest takeaway message about EMFs and health that the source leaves us with?
I think the core message is really about the state of the science. While EMFs are definitely part of modern life and concerns exist, the research on specific health risks, especially major ones like cancer, remains inconclusive.
Inconclusive. That word keeps coming up.
It does. It's a topic with a lot of ongoing debate. The source makes it clear that major health bodies don't see conclusive proof of harm from typical exposure levels right now. But it also acknowledges that research continues, and some people might reasonably choose to take precautions anyway.
And the source's overall recommended approach seems pretty balanced, practical.
I think so, basically. Stay informed using credible sources like, hopefully, the material we've just unpacked. Take sensible precautions if you personally feel concerned, but crucially, always talk to your doctor if you have actual health worries or symptoms. Don't try to self-diagnose based on EMFs.
Right. And Dr. Sirta Ram Vishnoy offers a concluding thought in the source that really seems to capture this well. Something like, technology enriches life, but thoughtful use protects your well-being.
That sums it up beautifully, doesn't it? Finding that balance between embracing the benefits and being mindful.
It really does. And it kind of leaves us and you listening with a final thought to chew on, building on the source. As technology becomes even more woven into every aspect of our lives, how do we continue to harness all its power and convenience, while also navigating this evolving scientific understanding, being thoughtful about potential impacts like those from EMFs?
It's definitely a question that requires that ongoing balance, embracing progress while staying aware and making measured choices about the unknowns.